And today, there have been a number of themes that have come through so far which really speak to the sort of research that we've been doing at UWC over the last 4 years. And I'm speaking particularly to a research project that finished at the end of last year. And I was a bit worried when Daniela asked me to speak today, because I said to her, look, you know, this research is already a year old, and it may be a bit redundant, but actually, having heard what other people have said so far, I think there are a number of key aspects that really follow through and that are extremely relevant and will continue to be relevant for a while. So this was a 4-year research project we did through the Division of Lifelong Learning at UWC, funded by SACWA in partnership with SACWA, and feeding into the NQF. I want to just firstly talk a little bit about the context, because that really framed the whole research project, and the whole research project was predicated upon the imperatives of the context that we were experiencing at UWC, as well as the policy context. So to speak to the policy context first, the white paper on post-school education and training was talking very much to more flexible forms of provision. And was emphasizing principles of things like learner-centeredness, lifelong learning, which of course is the central tenets of the Vision for Lifelong Learning at UWC, flexibility of learning provision, flexible access through instruments like recognition of prior learning and credit accumulation and transfer, and provision of learning support. And that is often not factored in as much as perhaps it should be when we're talking about flexibility. The white paper also advocates for programs and provisions that are responsive to students' realities. And for us, this was the core, because this is what we've been grappling with for a long time at UWC, is the fact that students' needs and realities were kind of being overlooked in what the university was having to do for efficiencies. And all universities are faced with efficiencies. So they need realities which take into account their varying life and work context, rather than require them to attend daily classes at fixed times and central venues, which is how most of our universities are still constructed. The white paper also recognizes the importance of educational technologies and encourages online and blended learning and open and distance learning programs. So that's the policy context for us, which we found very encouraging and supportive in the ways we wanted to start looking at learning and teaching differently. The particular context that we faced at UWC was that for many years, there has been recently, the last 5 years or so, increasing pressure on higher education institutions to take in young students, the NEETs, the youth, not in education or any other form of training, get them into university, front-end load, get more people pushed out the back end. With the result that lecturers are being overstressed, I'm sure you all know that, higher teaching loads and so on and so forth, and neglect starting to close down the after-hours programs that we had. And that was a very strong point that we've had at UWC over the last 55 years, that tradition of providing after-hours opportunities for working students. And we saw that there was much, and these were starting to collapse, more programs that were closing down. And therefore there was a need for new conceptions of lifelong learning. The majority of students, very interesting, a study that was done by the student support services at UWC found that, and it's difficult to quantify exactly because people are reluctant to say whether they are working or not, because a lot depends on it. Their bursary might, their misfits might depend on it, their accommodation might depend on it, their residential accommodation on campus might very well depend on it. Their registration might be affected by whether they are working or not. So it's very difficult to actually quantify the number of students who are actually working. But the research seems to show that as many as 75% of students at UWC are working in one form or another. And many of them who are working full-time are actually registered as full-time students because they need the residential accommodation and they need the bursary. So that was a critical crunch point, that the majority of students are working, and it's not always paid work. There are students who are heads of households. There are students who are looking after the elderly and the sick. There are students who are doing their best to rally their younger brothers and sisters and get them to school, things like that. So it's paid and unpaid, and many of them who are not actually working in paid work are seeking work because they need to subsidize, they can't actually afford to study. So how do we deal with this? Overcrowding and the tangible reality of working at universities is overcrowding of learning spaces. So we're front-end loading the system. The learning spaces are becoming overcrowded, and that is becoming a huge driver for changing the way we think about teaching and learning and what we do. And in fact, FLTP, as we have called it, flexible learning and teaching, flexible learning and teaching provision, was identified by the Institutional Operating Plan as an imperative. So that's the kind of background for the research. So really we're looking at transforming the way, again this theme that's running through everything so far, transforming the way we do learning and teaching in higher education. Central to all of this then is who are our students. We can't think about transforming learning and teaching unless we know who our students are. And throughout this research, we drew on a number of international academics who are working in this kind of space themselves, and are very good at directing and providing directing research and providing conceptual frameworks. And Miriam Lucas was one of them, who works at the University of London, and she works very much works with learning students, with working students. So they're kind of part-time blended, all the sorts of courses they do at the University of London, they're working students. And she emphasized that one needs to think of the student not just as the person who comes to campus to work, to study. That person is multidimensional. There is the student who lives in the home in the community. There is the student who has a working profile, a working identity as well, whether paid or unpaid, and of course the studying student. So when you think of student as citizen, as worker, as a human being, as a learner, and how all of those interact, overlap, and integrate with each other, and how do we actually address that whole human being of whom the student is part. So reconceptualizing who we think our students are. So the kind of main research questions we were asking is it possible to develop a new paradigm? To move beyond these binaries that most residential higher institutions still have today of daytime provision, and some of them have nighttime provision. But largely the binaries are part-time, full-time, daytime, nighttime provision, to achieve an inclusive conceptual framework for teaching and learning, which includes a diversity of students who have the high expectations. So that vast diversity of students that we often don't know. So can we actually shift to a new paradigm? And if we do, what conditions will need to change to give working people access and opportunities to succeed as well? So it's not just the access part, it's the opportunities to succeed. And I think today, we've covered quite a lot of them already. And poverty, of course, has a huge impact in many, many ways. So we're not just talking about access to digital technology. We're talking about, can you bring them around? When you get home, is there a space? Is there transport? If one can access it on campus, can you get off campus again? Well, how late can you stay? All of those real dilemmas for students who want to succeed but often have so many barriers in the way that they find pursuing. Locating the research then with the key question in the center, what conditions need to change, there are the various, that is embedded within various kind of issues that need to be learned here. Ah, there we go. It's getting tired of me, let's move on. So what are the conditions of access? What are the conditions of access for our students and what needs to change there? What form, if we are going to change to something a little more flexible, what form is flexible learning, teaching and assessment methods? What form must these take for success? Not just for efficiencies, but for success, because we're dealing with students. And I think you made that point very clearly, that it is about the student. What flexible modes for learning and teaching, what flexible modes for participation are needed in the learning and teaching process? And then, what about workplaces? What about the institutional policies? What about all these policies? Institutional, workplace, professional, because many of the students are professionals, they're coming to upgrade their professional qualifications. What are those policies that are encourage lifelong learning? So we work with a highly complex system, a highly complex set of problems. And in terms of all of those, so what is the curriculum, what are the curriculum changes that need to be made, what are the delivery changes that need to be made. The research project itself was quite a big one, and it followed three aspects. There were three chunks to it, if you like. The first was three components. The first was case studies that we did. We invited programs or particular departments that were involved in some form of flexible learning and teaching that would like to be part of the research process, and in which we would provide support to help them implement kind of more flexible learning and teaching approaches. So it was kind of, are you starting with this? Would you like some help? We'd like to bring you on board. We'd like to research, engage with you in an action research way. So it was an action research model that we used because we wanted to work with people in developing and changing and implementing. And we've got three partners decided to come on board as pilot studies. The Library and Information Sciences. These are all also had a part-time learning component. All had part-time students in one way or another. So they're all offering some form of part-time program and some form of flexible learning and teaching. So Library and Information Sciences, because most of their students are in fact working as librarians. And yet, most of the courses in Library and Information and Sciences have had to change and had to close down the part-time ones, and it's now mostly offered full-time. So it's becoming increasingly impossible for working students to attend. And UWC is the only university still offering Library and Information Sciences in the Western Cape. So they really are in an impossible situation. The Library and Information Sciences Political Studies, also offering a part-time program, and the School of Public Health. We chose the School of Public Health because even though it wasn't an undergraduate qualification, and we were looking particularly at undergraduate learning and teaching, not postgraduate, because that is much more easily offered in flexible modes. So we looked at undergraduate programs. The Masters in Public Health we looked at because it was a model for us of how they were succeeding in offering distance as well as personalized learning, online, blended, all sorts of forms. So they were kind of a model for everything else. So that was one aspect, those three case studies, and we worked with them over a period of 2 years. The other was mapping, if you like. We used mapping, which was a bit of a sticky one, but looking at flexible learning and teaching practices across the institution to understand, to get a sense of what people's understandings were of flexible learning and teaching, of their practices and the implications for their practices of these forms. And then finally we looked at whether it would be feasible for a particular program, in this case would be the admin program, to be offered, the whole program, undergraduate program, to be offered as a flexible program. The findings, well, firstly we came up with a definition that was agreed to by all of those who participated, that we need to think of flexible learning as an inclusive and student-centered approach that encompasses flexibility of admissions criteria, curriculum design, learning and teaching modes, and assessment with flexible support systems, and so on and so forth. All right? So again, the support system is very important. We use this idea of an ecology of learning because of the complexity. So this sort of complex systems thinking approach with the ecology of learning, looking at questions of learning and teaching, questions of technology and technological learning, and also questions of learning organization and culture. So it's not just a one size, a quick let's teach with technology. It's far more than that. Some of the main themes that emerged were changing identities, changing epistemologies, power relations between lecturers and students, and between admin and teaching staff, teaching with technology, barriers, affordances, and accountabilities, and so on and so forth. And as was pointed out so many times by lecturers who are in the field, so to speak, is that, you know, there are limits to flexibility. We have to juggle letting learners work at their own pace and having access when they want to, with the accountability side, with things like, yes, we have to make sure academic literacy is under control. There needs to be social interaction. Learning is socially constructed. We need to create those spaces, those one-on-ones. People can come with real problems and we can work with them. And we need to ensure timely completion. So it's a juggle. Flexible learning is a juggle between the accountability side, what has to be done by a certain time, and providing more ease of access and in their own time and their own way for students. And because lecturers also have limitations. And then through the analysis, we realized that one of the big problems was that we don't conceptualize the institution holistically enough when we are thinking of change. And that for us, there were 4 subsystems that resonated with us. The teacher subsystem, the student subsystem, the delivery subsystem, and the admin system that all need to work in a very holistic and supportive way with each other. So for instance, for change to take place, it's not just enough to put technology in place, because registration doesn't, for instance, recognize distance or open learning, and doesn't recognize flexible times for registration of admissions. So all of these factors have to be taken into account when one is looking at change and how they are going to work together. So, flexible learning and teaching is not just about technology, although that plays an enormous part, but it requires development of distinctive, more holistic forms of provision as well as institutional change. And institutional change for us, when we're talking about getting the various parts of the university to work together, to look at what do we mean by, what do people understand by flexible learning? We need to build common knowledge among people who all have different motivations in what they want to do. So we need to get beyond the surface behaviors and look at what really drives people to do the things they do, to understand change in that way. We can move forward and start to introduce organizations. Just as you see, it was an action research project. The other thing that came up here, finishing up, is this idea of resourceful leadership. In order for universities to transform organizational change, to have all this happen, resourceful leadership needs to be there, leading from the top, but also encouraging resourceful leadership at the bottom, where most of the innovation happens, with the individual teachers, individual staff, in the middle, and at the top, to encourage innovation to move upstream from the champion who's working quietly in the corner doing the most wonderful innovative things. How do we mainstream that into the university more fully? So affirm and support champions, develop common understandings, reward and incentivize innovation in a real way through promotion and encourage collaborative relationships. Okay? I won't go into where all the big ideas were, but to us we put a whole lot of big ideas on the table as to where UWC should be going with this, and I think some of those ideas are starting to come through, and it's very encouraging. But it was, technology was very important, but I think we need to think far more broadly than just the technology.